Excellencies, distinguished participants, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to today's public forum at ISIS on political reforms in Thailand. I think we called it Reforming Post-Coup Thai Politics, Issues, Priorities, and Challenges. We have a full house. I think we have almost 200 people signed up, so I think that we will have a capacity crowd. Many issues to discuss. We haven't had many seminars here, so we hope to have more of this in the near future. Let us begin with some opening remarks from Ajahn Ek, Professor Ek Tangsupvattana, who is a newly chosen, appointed Dean of the Faculty of Political Science, and he is going to set the ground rules and to welcome you. Ajahn Ek, go ahead, Kap.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as the new Dean of the Faculty of Political Science, I extend my warm welcome to all of you to today's ISIS Public Forum on Reform Post-Coup Thai Politics, Issues, Priorities and Challenges. In recent months, we have had fewer public seminars on Chulalongkorn's campus if we compare to previous years due to political instability and uncertainty. As I begin my term during this interim period, when a caretaker government is in place, I think we may now have more space to promote public understanding, discourse, and conversation that are constructive and beneficial to Thai society. Our intention is always to provide a constructive and productive platform in a fair and unbiased fashion. Without constructive forums that can contribute to broad exchanges and views and ideas, it may be difficult to promote longer-term peace and stability in Thailand. I know that many of you and your colleagues may have been coming to ISIS forums over the years. These forums have covered a wide range of issues and discussions on domestic politics, regional dynamics, and international implications. They are intended to provide a window for Thailand to understand the outside world, and at the same time a channel for the outside world to understand Thailand, and sometimes a way for Thais to understand each other as the case may be. This remains our mission, and the ISIS forums, along with other activities at our faculty, will continue to serve and fulfill our mission as much as they can. Today, we are interested in Thailand's political reforms. Reforms can be cliche. They are bandied about often without concrete proposals and results. I don't think we will come up with answers to Thailand's political reform process today. But we can make a contribution to the process. Please keep in mind that we are not interested in making other political statements that may be best expressed elsewhere some other time. For those who would like to raise a question and comment during discussion, you may do so, but please keep them concise to the point. We are interested in reforms idea, especially in view of the National Reform Council, which is about to begin its work. I trust that Ajahn Thitinan will keep the proceedings to the point, constructive and useful for all our stakeholders. Lastly, I would like to thank two distinguished speakers, Professor Suchit, Bunbongkarn, and คุณสุรนันท์เวชชาชีวะ Professor Kothom Arya and Professor Panitan Wattanayagorn who are giving us precious time. And I thank all of you for joining this seminar or conference. And may I return the floor to Professor Thitinan. Thank you.
So the Dean has set the ground rules. Two key words for this morning's forum, constructive and reforms. So we want to be constructive in discussing reforms going forward. We have 4 distinguished speakers, as has been mentioned, and I've asked them to speak for 20 to 25 minutes. I want to make just a quick introduction just down the row, and then we'll proceed to their comments. First, I want to start with Professor Suchit, Bunbongkarn. You have their bios in front of you, so you can look at the details, their backgrounds, and so on. I just want to tell you very briefly my own impression, my own recollections of these speakers, whom I've known for a long time. Professor Suchit, around here, he is someone who has done it all. He's been a professor, emeritus professor, scholar, author, and he also has been involved in public policy. He has been advisor to the government in the past. He has been a judge on the Constitutional Court. He has been a drafter of the 1997 Constitution. And most recently, he was and still is a member of the selection panels for the National Reform Council. There are 11 panels, and each panel has 7 members, so he's a member of the political panel. Second, I want to introduce Ajahn Kothom Arya, Professor Kothom Arya from Mahidol University. You have his details in front of you, but Ajahn Kothom, to me, I remember him most for his role in the first ECT, the Election Commission of Thailand, back in the 1990s, leading up to the January 2001 election. And since then, he has been a teacher and a writer and worked on conflict resolution, human rights issues. So when we think of conflict resolution and human rights, including the South, we think often of Ajahn Kothom at Mahidol. Third, Kun Suranand Vejjajiva. Here, he's the only professional politician on this panel. He is a member of the Pheu Thai party, has been a member in the past of the Pheu Thai precursors, the Thai Rak Thai party, the Palang Prachachon People's Power Party. And on a different occasion in the future, perhaps, I normally would have, if it's one politician, we would have other politicians from other parties. But for this panel, we just wanted one politician. So it turns out to be a politician from this side. So welcome to Kun Suranand, and his role will be somewhat offset or balanced by my good friend next to me, Ajahn Panitan. Professor Panitan, Wattanayagorn, can help us balance the panel a bit. Ajahn Panitan is not a professional politician, but he has played an instrumental role in past governments, particularly with the Democrat government of Prime Minister Abhisit Vejjajiva. He has many affiliations, a long track record, which you can see on his CV. But to me, what I know and remember most about him is that 21 years ago, when Ajahn Suchit was the dean, the faculty only admitted 2 new lecturers back in 1993, and it was he and I. And we shared office and have been close friends ever since. He is currently the principal advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister General Prawit Wongsuwan. So he has a very important position to be able to tell us about the perspective of reforms from the government side. Broadly, there are 11 reform areas, including politics, public administration, law and justice, local administration, education, economy, energy, public health and environment, media, society. So we will now look at some of these ideas. We'll start with Ajahn Suchit. Reform ideas. Now that we have the NRC coming into place, what might they think about the NRC members? So Ajahn Suchit.
Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad and it's an honor for me to be here again. I've been away for quite some time. in these forums, you see, public forums, because we are getting old. I'm getting old, so I try to stay home as much as possible. But Kun Thitinan asked me about how about could you come over here to talk about reform, because it seems to be an interest of everyone. So as I was one of the selection committee for the Reform Council, so I agreed to present my views on the issues that should be deserve to get attention for the NRC, or National Reform Council, and the problems that I anticipate might occur in terms of reforming our country, and what would be the prospect of it. Okay. Well, we know quite well that everybody is now looking forward for reforms. It reminded me when I was sitting in a class lecture by Professor Sam, the late Sam Huntington, in 1960s at Harvard Department of Government. Some of you were not born yet in 1960s. And the course I was attending is a course on the political order in changing societies. And his theory is that, one of his theories that he mentioned to the class, he tried to compare difficulties between reform and revolution. And he told us that, you see, reform is the most difficult task than revolutions. Because if the reform comes in too early, then the conservative would block it, and it always fail. And if it comes too late, people will go for revolution. They never want to go for reform. Nevertheless, we are not wanting any kind of disrupt change or revolution, so people now agree with the reform. So my point I would like to discuss with you today is what would be the major issues from my point of views and other views and other people's views should be get the most attention for reforms. As Ajahn Thitinan mentioned, that the government provided the NRC with the 11 reform programs ranging from political reform to mass media reform, educational reform, etc., etc. But from my point of view, it's almost impossible to do everything at the same time. But the NRC would be composed of those who came from various sectors of the country, and they would specialize in each of the 11 reform area. So I would like to point out only in the area of the so-called political reforms, because I believe that if we really want to consolidate our democracy, if we really want to strengthen our democracy in the future, then political reforms should be getting a top priority. But at the same time, if you really want to reform in politics, reform in other areas should be get attention as well. So these are the problems. How can we prioritize the reform program? So what I would like to do within the 15 or 20 minutes, you see, I would like to point out, first of all, you see, if we want to launch some sort of political reforms in order to ensure our stable democracy in the future and to consolidate democracy in the future, we should focus on the development of political institutions and processes, particularly including the election system and the party system, in order to ensure that the future elected governments would be honest, responsible, and serve the public needs. It's almost when I was appointed to be member of a constitutional drafting assembly some years ago. The one I did was the 1997 Constitution, and we discussed a lot about how to establish a new election system in order to get rid of the so-called vote buying, patronage system, corruptions in political circles, so on and so forth. So we have to make sure that if we can get through election processes are very honest and good politicians, then we don't have to do anything much. So we established a new system of election that you probably know already. We had a party list system and the one single member constituency, so on and so forth. But it turned out to be a failure in order to get rid of the so-called vote buying. So we have to look into it again. I don't have any idea at the moment. I've run out of the idea. Perhaps San Koto might have some other ideas. You see, as an engineer, he can introduce anything new. You see, but as a political scientist, I'm not be able to do so. But I like to point out, election system is one of the things that we have to reform, and the party system as well. How we can strengthen the party system. Somebody mentioned that multi-party system is one of the weakest. We are having a very weak party system so far within the several decades in the past. But somebody mentioned about can we have a two-party system like in the UK law or like in the US? Well, if you look at the past, you see, more or less we have more or less about a two-party system. You see, in the past decade, we have Thai and Democrats, so on and so forth, you see, and smaller parties. And the question is, you see, is this good enough for our reform program? You see, because the number of the parties don't count much. I think the linkage between party and the masses is very important. So how can you build up the party system at the linkage? The Thai also has a very strong base in Northeast and in the East. And in the north. The Democrat has strong base in the south, you see, and in the central plain is something uncertain for a number of parties. So we are not very sure this kind of thing could be handled or established well. The linkage between parties and the masses, and some party, although it's very large party, still dominated by 1 or 2 persons only. So it's not very healthy sign for party development, and we like to do more. So this is the thing that we have to look into it. If we have a very strong party system and a good election system, then we can be sure that the elected governments in the future would be honest and responsible and serve the public needs. See, and the other thing is, see, we need to look to the reform program that would provide an elected government that would be able to accommodate the needs of various political, economic, and social groups, ranging from the grassroots level up to the top. So our society is becoming more complex in terms of diversity of interests, diversity of needs, and so on and so forth, and the level of income and economic needs seem to be more diversified. So the issue is now becoming a very new experience for any elected government, how to accommodate all those needs. You see, whether you want to do anything in favor of the people at the lower level, or you want to do only the middle class people, urban versus rural, so on and so forth. So we have to accommodate more, and it's not very easy for an elected government to be able to do so in the future. But this, we need to look into it. What kind of reform program that we can strengthen our elected government in order to accommodate all these needs, all these diversified needs, you see. And at the same time, the reform program must stick to the principle of democracy, like the people's liberty must be respected, equality in all aspects must be encouraged, and law and order must be observed. You have to strike a very proper balance between freedom and order, between equalities and order. So that's very easy to strike a balance, and this is the work of the future government. So you have to look into it, and also is also the work of NRC as well, how you can design a political reform program to ensure that the future political system and the governmental system would allow a very suitable balance between freedom on one side, on one hand, and the law and order on the other. Another reform is very important is the relationship between politicians and government bureaucrats. In our country, you see, the so-called patronage system is very strong. Patronage system within the bureaucracy, and the patronage system between the politicians and some of the civil service officers. And it's not very easy to get rid of the so-called patronage system, because in Thailand, personal relationships is very important. It's very important. If you ask Kun Panitan, he is now not only the advisor to Kun Pravit, but he is director of Prajadhipok-Rambhaibarni, KPI Institute, which offer courses to train top politicians, civil service officers, about the knowledge of democracy and the international relations. But a number of them who attend the class want to get in touch with each other, want to strengthen personal tie in order to ensure their future work and accomplishment, because in working together in the bureaucracy, somehow you need a very good personal relationship. That's why the reunion of class of old school is very important to strengthen your personal tie, and it would ensure your future accomplishment in either politics or in the government services. So how can we get rid of this patronage system, and then how about the good suitable relationship between the government and the police force, the armed forces, is quite interesting. You see, the so-called civil relationship with the civil military relationship is very important. If you want civilian supremacy over the armed force, what kind of relationship between the government and the armed force would be established? And nobody in the NCRC mentioned about this. They're talking about the police reform, they're talking about the governmental service reform, and nobody mentioned about if you really want to have a very good democratic system in the country, which means that the civilian control over the armed forces is also developed, must be developed as well. So nobody mentioned about this, so I would like to point out it's also important. See, but it does mean that the armed forces must always follow the instruction of the governments. No matter it's a good instruction or not, but you need to do something like in the West society where objective relationship between the two forces is very important. Okay, the third one that I would like to point out is the devolution of the government administration is a very big issue. You see, we agree that political administrative authority must not be concentrated in the capital. More authority should be transferred from the national governments to the local ones. But the question is how? Well, there has been a proposal for direct elections of provincial governors and some local government officers. So this is, I think to me that it's very sensitive issue. If you go and ask Minister Panakda, he will say something. Otherwise, you see, no election at the moment, what he might say. How can we make sure that the devolution will not end up providing opportunities for only some, not all, see, some greedy local politicians who have an insatiable hunger for power and wealth as their personal interests prevail over national interests. How can we ensure that these people won't come into power through the devolution of the government administration? Well, how many times? Have one? Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, then. The next reform is also important in politics. It's a checks and balances system. Check and balances. Under the 1991 constitutions and the previous constitutions, we established a very powerful national counter-corruption commissions and also constitutional court, administrative courts. But from the point of view of a number of people said they are not enough. You see, we need to do more in terms of make the checking institution really politically free. You see, they must be able to maintain their own autonomy without any influence from politicians, from economic interests and others. So it's not very easy at all, it seemed to me, because I was in one time a judge of the Constitutional Court, and the interpretation and or the decision of the Constitutional Court in many issues have had direct and indirect impact on politics. So when I was there, there was some lobbying and some the outside influence to force our decision making. But I don't know whether it would be continuing or not in the future. But we have to make it sure that if you really want to have an honest and less corrupt government, you need to have a very capable as well as a competent checking system. Can we make it sure that the Counter-Corruption Commission would be politically free? Can be sure that the future of the Constitutional Court will be out of the political power and influence. So this must be looked into it very seriously. And the other issue would be reform on the cultural and on the cultural and in the area of cultural and psychological aspects, like the issue of the political ethics and morality of politicians and government officers, must lead to a conviction that the work of politics and the work of government is not for personal interest, it's just for public service. So when you volunteer to be politician, when you volunteer yourself to be part of the public service, you must respect that you are doing for the public goods, not your own interest. See, but if you talk to a number, only some politicians, Suranand, not all, okay? Some politicians, some might say, oh, I want to get rich because getting politics, you will get advantage of this and that, you see. So I want to be sure that everyone who got involved in politics must have something in their mind, must clear their mind that they have to work for public interest first. I used to talk to one of a very prominent Singaporean politician. He was a businessman before turning to be politicians under the PAP, under Lee Kuan Yew, of course, you see. And when he talked to his colleague, you see, that he want to quit business to join politics because he wants to work for the public interest. And his colleague, you see, mentioned, if you really want to work for public interest, you don't have to get paid. You have to work for politics for free. And you are rich enough to work for free. You don't have to get paid for being a politician. And he left. Okay, and eventually he got paid anyhow. But the point is that you have to be very careful how to make it sure that those who come to power have to bear in mind that you need to be very important. One of the important issue is to develop your own political ethics. And the most important, I would like to emphasize, the most important reform is how to strengthen the people sector. It's very important, you see. The people sector and civil society is very important. The development of a sense of citizenship will empower the people sector. We must bear in mind that the people are the foundation of democracy. If the people sector is weak, our democracy will also weak and unstable. In the past, Thailand didn't pay enough attention to the development of the people sector, hence our democracy has been exploited by politicians, but for their personal benefit. If we want to strengthen our democracy, we must strengthen people sector, and it is very difficult, the more difficult thing to strengthen people sector, and it takes time. It needs to reform in the area of political socialization. We need to reform in the area of the education, and in the area of social mobilization, in the area of political socialization, as well as the educational reform. It takes time. It takes years. So the problem is, can we accomplish all this within a year? Well, somebody mentioned it's almost an impossible dream. Well, it's impossible dream, but somehow we need to tackle it, and we need to make it sure that if we have to make something impossible possible. Thank you.
Ajahn Suchit, let me just ask a very quick follow-up to that.
Yes.
Now, you were a drafter, one of the 99 drafters of the 1997 Constitution. 1997 Constitution took 5 years to write. 5 years, from 1992. I mean, we had a crisis in 1992 in May, and after that there was a reform movement. It led to the Constitution of 1997. So as a drafter, from that experience, what do you think we should be doing or thinking differently now? Is that a good template for us now, 1997? Did it come too soon? Should we reconsider some of the mechanisms and provisions of 1997?
I think so. That a number of items in 1997 is very relevant for the present and for the present and future situation. You see, and we don't have to come up with a brand new constitution. You see, and a number of good things in that constitution would be able to put into implementation again. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It has been a rather hectic week for me, and I'm sorry that this PowerPoint presentation may not be fully developed. Having said that, Ajahn Suchit introduced me as an engineer. He's not wrong, but
He's not right either.
he's right. But I would say that I owe my presentation from my French education rather than, but of course, it's a big contribution from my being an engineer. So my presentation will have three sort of sections. I entitled the talk as I changed a little bit your title, so that is the politics of reform, isn't it? And I think we should start with our common values as the basis for negotiating a new social contract. And then we should deliberate about fair rules. That is the constitution, if you like. And then having guiding principles, having good constitutions. But how about the players? If they continue to play the game like they did, I don't see that we are going to anywhere any good soon. But this fair play, according to my proposal, could only be achieved through the construction of new dominant discourse, so that we can have social sanctions and political sanctions if the players are not, or the referee for that matter, are not applying the rule in a fair manner. Where we are in the middle of the swinging of the pendulum between military regimes and representative democracy. These oscillations means an ever-transitory system without an equilibrium point. Now we are at some extreme of the swing. And given the Article 44 of the imposed constitution, we may ask whether we should call this a Rajakan state or a kind of shogunate. Then we have been promised within a year, that Judge Suchit mentioned, that we will reach the promising land, that is, we will swing back, and I quote, to true democracy. If you're in a car, and you feel that your car is going up and down, you say wildly, at each bump, what does it mean? It means that your shock up doesn't work. There's no damping oil in that shock. So the shock up is a spring only. There's no friction. So it swings wildly. And I use this metaphor to question our reformers. How could we introduce some friction and move smoothly to an equilibrium point? This is a little bit engineering, Dr. Suchit. Friction from engagement should be accepted. My tentative answer is that please overcome the natural centrifugal force that make us turn away from our rivals and like-minded enemy. And I look at Suranand as example. I think he has been trying to do so, but the response has not been so fruitful, and so on. So we are encompassing the so-called flighting mode, not fighting even. Sometimes we fight, sometimes we flight, but we don't engage. Of course, engaging is difficult. Some friction, we have to blame us, blame others, work it out, and so on. So I propose to the supporter of the coup and their opponents to talk. A lot of friction, but that needs to be tactfully tackled. Then I start with the first item of my presentation, which is common values. But I present the whole: common values, fair rules, and fair play. Engage in dialogue, engage in deliberation about the rule of the game, and engage in the construction of dominant discourse that reject those who do not fairly play the political game. Oh, what is it? This is the final? I come to the final slide already? Wow. What happened in between? I don't know. Engineering problem. Somebody's maybe trying to sabotage. No, I don't think so. I only blame it on myself. May I change the computer then? No. The computer, and maybe we change this one. Huh? I think. Let's see whether it will work. There you go. Let me forget. All right. It will work, I hope. Oh, some hope. ไม่ต้องเลยเยอะจังเลยคราวที่แล้วเอาออกแล้วมันเจ๊งเลย ผมไม่รู้ว่าผมมีโชคร้ายหรือโชคดีนะ
Please bear with us. He's a professor. This is like a class.
No, you are wrong. I'm an old professor, so I'm not fast. Let's see whether this one has 25 slides. So, okay, they are all here. We are at already number 10, I suppose. A century ago, we borrowed the British political values, namely God, king, and country, and had our own version of nation, religion, and king. And I would call these traditional values. In 1932, People's Party introduced the 6 principles, namely sovereignty, safety, economic prosperity, equality, freedom as long as it is compatible with the above principles, and education for all. 82 years ago. Attempt has been made to add the word constitution to the traditional values. It was later deleted as constitutions in this land. After constitutions, they were all thrown away, I don't know. Torn, only torn. Okay. Not in Thai, in English. Later, the word people is sometimes added to the traditional values. Then now we have the so-called National Council for Peace and Order. And TCLI, I would say, would order come before peace? Don't make the acronym out of it. And the NCPO proposes and promotes 12 values as follows. Upholding the 3 main pillars: honesty, filial, how to pronounce this word? Piety. Okay. Knowledge, preservation of Thai traditional morality, integrity, understanding democratic ideals with His Majesty the King as head of state, maintaining discipline, conscious and mindful of action in line with His Majesty the King's royal statements, apply His Majesty the King's sufficiency economy, keeping physical and mental strength, so be healthy. And the last one is putting public and national interest before our own. This is being learned every day now in our schools. It is like, you see, all the Buddhists should know about the 8-fold path towards enlightenment. And I challenge the Buddhists around here whether they remember all the 8.
5.
Not the 5. The 5 is easier, but the 8 is tough. Anyhow, we will see. Let's look at some national values of other countries. This is from Singapore. If I'm wrong, please, I have seen my colleagues over there. Where is he now? Oh, he's there. Okay. Not really my colleague, but my friend rather. Singapore put the nation before community, family as the basic unit of the society, community support and respect for individual, consensus not conflict, racial and religious harmony. Why Indonesia has the Pancasila? Sorry, I'm going quickly because I'm constrained by the time. The belief in one God, just and civilized humanity, unity of all Indonesians, democracy guided by inner wisdoms, and social justice. So say 5 is good to remember sometimes. 6 maybe a little bit more. But 12 I think is, please convey this message to the powers that be. And the US only go for 4. Democracy, free trade, human rights, and appropriate status of world order. Only US can say that. Why? EU promote more collective values, which is democracy and human rights, social cohesion, open, inclusive, and integration towards our neighbor, multiple identities. I think the translator is not so good. And multi-cultures or cultural approach. So, what are the emerging Thai national values? Anyhow, they cannot be just given to us, even by our big brothers. So we need to seriously engage in a widely open dialogue to search for what we do value, and that values should serve as the basis for our new social contract. Our shared value will guide us to the thick and thin of Thai politics in the years to come. Our common values will be referred to whenever we have questions about national interests or about the architecture of our constitution. Is it to be singular or plural, Ajahn Suchit? Oh, she doesn't know. Our future constitution or constitutions. Now I move to another point, which is deliberation on issues of our new constitution. I like to be very general, so sorry. I not really go by your rule by issues, challenges, priorities and challenges. I put it lump sum, as we say in Thai. Deliberation needs to address both our emotion and our reasoning. The case in point is to choose important issues related to the new constitution drafting and engage in deliberation on those issues. The first issue that came to my mind is, are we going to have a liberal constitution, a well-regulated system, or even a very tightly supervised system? We have to deliberate on what we want, liberal democracy or otherwise. Then the second issue is SML. The first constitution is very short, the second one is less short, and the number 18 is very long. So S for short and also for small can be beautiful, concise, less contradictory, and enshrining only basic laws, including the protection and promotion of citizenship and the structure of democratic governance, while leaving details for ordinary laws and changing legislatures. Large will ensure whatever the present powers that we want it to be, and including the feeling of the citizens that need always changing, unfortunately. And the third issue is whether we accept transparency for all. Is it true that no one is infallible? Again, I have the French pronunciation, infaillible. Anyhow, this is English. Monarchy comprises the three venerable persons who are protected by the lèse-majesté law. But also, monarchy comprises, as an institution and network, many other organizations and persons. Should they be criticized sometimes positively, or should they be part of the under the protection of the lèse-majesté law? I don't know. But I would say that, shall we froze the monarchy in time, or shall we allow a stable evolution through listening, constructive engagement and transparency? Another point, Ajahn Suchit also already mentioned the check and balance. I think we have to think very hard. You see, for internal and external check and balance, internal means within the legislative, and external means between the three powers. Have our political institutions been properly checked and balanced? For instance, our elections, our government were too easily thrown out or not in the past few years? To whom have our supervisory bodies been answerable? We have so many of them. They said they are answerable, probably among themselves. Unfortunately, I have been part of one of them. Still not being questioned too much, hopefully. Deliberation on issues. Another one is, where do they come from? What kind of election, selection, appointment rules for MP, senators, PM, ministers, judges, and high-ranking officials? That the election, selection, and appointment would be seen fair by most of us. What rules for their eventual dismissal? We protect public interest by being seen as fair by both the public and concerned persons. Representation, participation, and deliberation. We have so far institutionalized, for the better and for the worse, our representation in the parliament. But how about participation? How this could be protected and promoted? Some of us have complained about the negative side of our participation. Could the quality of our participation be improved, say, by adaptive and productive deliberation? For the deliberation itself, of course, there are so many other issues, and my suggestion here is far from being exhaustive. Please add more issues to your liking, and please delete some of mine, as they may seem to be irritating. But hopefully we agree to have friendly talk, do we not? How about fair play? I'm reaching my end of the presentation soon. Suppose we have common values to guide us. Suppose we have fair rules, then what? Did we learn our lessons, or do we still blame others for our state of affairs? In fact, it is missing. I think we all are more or less responsible and should feel that we should be part of the solution. Could we play our roles fairly, not cheating, and help constructing a level playing field? Dominant discourses. So far we blame it either on the system or on individuals. And I would like to shift your attention, to discourse. Discourse is, I give just one definition, the objectivization of words. S is missing. Objectivization of words. We construct through the discourse our imagined reality. Up to now, I give you some example. Corruption, lack of responsible citizenship, bad politicians are the sources of our problems. We repeat this again and again, and it has become the politics of reform. So we have to reform these things. We have to get rid of corruption. Nobody denied it. We have to build responsible citizenship. Yes. We have to get rid of bad politicians. Why not? But that is not all. By simply repeating something, it becomes some reality, but not the whole reality. So I would like to shift your attention from this kind of discourse to the level playing field or the fair play discourse. We need to develop social and political sanctions for those who refuse to play it fairly. It should not be business as usual or going on with the no consequence mentality. Accountability and consent are the two basic principles in my understanding. You have the right to govern by consent, but you have the duty to report yourself to the people or the voters. That is accountability. If you don't do both, you are not legitimate. And society should be informed that you are not so, and able to discern any camouflage, any hiding behind their image as public good doers. Maybe sometimes they are not. But we need that accountability. But how to construct such discourse? I have no answer, sorry. Every institution, state, business, civil society, media, etc. should make their contribution. If we want to construct such discourse, we may expect significant results. Not in a year, I agree with Suchit fully, but maybe in some years to come. But do we have other means? As I believe that peace will come through non-violent means, I also believe that stable, dominant discourse, I insist stable or sustainable dominant discourses should come through continuous efforts of dialogue, deliberation, and discussion. That's one of the last. Yes, I appreciate your kindness in listening to Andre Triber, like me, and thank you all.
You alluded to this continuum continuum อาจารย์ which อาจารย์สุจิต first broach the continuum between liberty and order or order and liberty and somehow one way to look at Thailand is that we have not found the balance equilibrium juncture that can move forward in a balanced fashion. So, Ajahn Pothom, how do we know what our common values are and how do we derive them?
Well, I can only imagine mine. You see, if you want my answer, I will give you right away, but it's useless because I change my mind every week. Yes, that is quite true. But it should emerge from the society as a whole. We have some ingredients. I give you some examples, you see, here and there. We construct our values from that. And it will not be created by overnight, you see. It will be absorbed by the society. This is not the case of Indonesia. Indonesia, Sukarno talked with his Muslim colleagues and say, okay, we will not make it an Islamic state. And they agree. And what principle then? The shift from Islam to one God. It's very clever. We keep it, they keep it. So we may talk about this. Then, addition is humanity. Do we value humanity? Social justice. Unity of Indonesians. I think the Pancasila of Indonesia can be a little basis on the 6 principles of the People Party in the 1932, or why not the NCPO, right? NCPO 12 values, or whatever, you see. But if we don't have this kind of guiding principles, then we will move around and around. You see, if I talk to you on this ground of principle, you move around on the practicality of the principle, you move around here and there, we are not in tune. That's why I propose we have discussion, or I use the word dialogue on the common values.
Thank you ขอบคุณครับอาจารย์